Hi, and you're very welcome to episode 12 of season 5 of the League of Ireland Women's Premier Division podcast here on finalwhistle.ie with me, Breifne Earley, and Aaron Clarke as ever. Aaron, I got through the intro. I didn't mess it up this week. Are you proud?
Absolutely. I think that was the one thing I said to you before the show. Can you get the intro done without it? But listen, the one thing, as you've just said to me before we literally went live, it shows that when we do record these, we actually record them as true and genuine when we make mistakes.
Yeah, no, we do record them live. It's Monday evening. We're a little bit early this week because you're otherwise engaged. You're traveling out to Turkey for the international game later in the week. All excited for another trip. Have you been to Turkey before?
Never been. Haven't packed. Haven't even thought about what I'm bringing yet. Typical me. It'll be either a late night tomorrow packing, or it'll be packing first thing Wednesday morning.
You're like me
Listen, then. I'm excited. I was speaking to some of the Irish girls this morning, and we got a bit of an update from the FAI, and they were training today in Turkey, and they brought the Irish weather with them. They brought the rain. So hopefully a bit of rain disappears in the next couple of days, and it's a bit of a shorts and t-shirt weather with a bit of luck.
Well, speak for yourself. I don't know where you've been the last couple of weeks, but it's been pretty good weather in this country for the last little bit, although we won't talk about the last 24 or 48 hours. Turkey's interesting. You'll have a great crack there. Where is the game? Where are you flying into?
In Istanbul. It's in Istanbul.
Yeah, it's a great city. You love it, but it's scary. The police and the customs and stuff, it's a different kind of experience going into Turkey than most other countries. That'll be fun. But once you get through that, it's a great city. Go enjoy
I've done places like Albania. I've done some dodgy enough ones.
I've been some crazy places, but Turkey for me was just that level above in terms of the weaponry and the machinery around customs posts. But I did cross a land border, which might be a slightly different kettle of fish. Anyway, let's talk about football for a difference. We were talking about off air beforehand about the All Ireland Sports Cup. I'm going to call it that now because we're not quite sure what the actual name of the competition is.
I see the AIC floating around a lot this week. I don't really like
I
that.
think one of the commentators, I'm not going to name names, Declan Hughes, but one of the commentators called it the AIC All Ireland Cup. I think he thought it was a sponsor as opposed to the actual abbreviation of the name. But I think that's coming from FAI Connect, if I'm honest, because there's a little AIC logo in the top corner that normally would be SSE Electricity. But yeah, it's been a great weekend. Unbeaten for the 4 northern teams. It's the first time that's happened in the history of the competition. So, mind you, there's only 4 teams this year versus 5 last. But that's a big statement and a kind of a big plus because we've seen some of the northern teams struggle at this level. But to see Lisburn get a win against DLR, Glentoran in the manner of their victory against Waterford, for really, really good results. Although I'm sure nobody would be overly happy in the north with the Linfield result, just managing to scrape a draw against Sligo despite probably dominating the game, and Cliftonville getting pegged back by Cork. But still, it's unbeaten. They got to be happy with that. A couple of them looking at maybe being realistic chances of progressing to the quarterfinals.
The biggest thing I looked at this weekend, and I don't know if you noticed it yourself, there was in the way the groups fell the weekend. Group A and Group C, all games were draws. Group B and Group D, all away wins. Interesting the way no home team won this week. No home team won this weekend. You mentioned there about Glentoran, the first team through as well into the next round. That's also a nice thing to have off the bucket list and not have to worry about sort of playing that last game. And like the biggest thing we always said in this competition was when the northern teams are in season, or when they're full in season, they're competitive in these games and they're able to put it up to the teams. Looking back at the games, yeah, you're right, probably Sligo Rovers getting a result against Linfield, but for me, the probably disappointing result of the weekend from the northern based teams would be the fact that Cliftonville let the 2-goal lead slip against Cork. I think that for me is probably the biggest thing, and we'll talk about defending in that game in a bit. But that's probably the one. But then you look down our side of the ponds. United again.
On the flip side, I think you have to compliment Sligo for the result because I don't think anybody would have given them a hope in hell's snowball's chance in hell of getting a result out of that. So to come away with 2 points in their opening 2 games, yeah, they're up against it. They got to play Shells in that last game, and that's going to be a big challenge to get out of that group. Albeit at home, they have beaten Shells at home, so there is that. But they've given themselves a fighting chance of getting out of Group A now at this stage.
But the interesting thing now from a Shells viewpoint is that what way do Shells attack that game against Sligo? Because the fact that they'll have Athlone in the league a week later, does Owen Wearing want to potentially not risk certain players? And that's where it gets very, very interesting. Like we said last week, if they could get some sort of results on Bohs, like you look at that group in particular, like nobody is true. We're talking after 2 games. Yes, Shells have 4 points, but nobody is actually mathematically true. And it could be a case that Wearing may decide to give the players a run, and then if he does do that, the thing about Sligo is, and we've seen it before, if Sligo can get a nick a one goal lead, they're very, very hard to peg back, and they're very compact and very well defensively set up. I think the biggest thing you'd probably say from a Sligo viewpoint is at the weekend was the fact that they actually came back from a goal down as well, away from home.
Before we get tied down with permutations and how teams may or may not progress to the quarterfinals, maybe let's talk a bit about the football at the weekend. We'll start with Bohs and Shells. 1-1 draw for them. Great finish from Healy for the Bohs opener. Bit of a question mark about maybe what the defense was doing. Amanda McQuillan won't want to see it back again. But also there appeared to be some. I'm not going to call it a foul because I don't think it was actually a foul, but there was definitely a coming together between Healy and Hannon. Hannon ended up on the ground. I think she maybe got her foot stood on by accident. But Healy then had all the space in the world on the edge of the box to pick her spot. Did so really, really well. Didn't really give McQuillan a chance, but as I said, the goalkeeper won't be overly happy. And then Mackenzie Anthony with a great strike just to touch that ball home from the corner. Michelle's be looking at this.
I'm going to disagree with you completely here. I didn't think it was a great strike from Healy. I thought she didn't connect very well with it. I would say McQuillan was definitely poor. McQuillan was definitely poor for the goal. Shells were definitely poor for the defending. The Mackenzie Anthony one, is that a set play? Is that something they've looked at? Because she just hooks the ball around the corner. The one note that I made out of that was there was 6 Bohs players between herself and Rachel Kelly in the Bohs goal. Like, she got that through that gap quite nicely. And like for me, this game, you're sort of thinking it was never, and anybody who even thought of it was going to live up to the league game where that finished 7-2 was never going to be the case. The one thing you can see from Michelle's viewpoint is they made a lot of changes. A lot of players got game time. A lot of players got opportunities. Interestingly enough, they didn't have a replacement goalkeeper on the bench for the game again. But like you're looking at this result, I think this result is probably the result that Bohs would really like coming out of that game. Granted, it wasn't a win for them, but they still have their own destiny in their own hands, and I think that's for them. That was as important as it was for Shells, and like I don't think either side will be too disappointed with a draw in this game.
You talk about them not having a sub goalkeeper on the bench. I think we had 3 or 4 teams where there's a sub goalkeeper on the bench. Sligo Rovers, no sub keeper. I think I could open to correction, but also I think somebody else struck me as having no sub goalkeeper when I was going through the stats over the weekend. Treaty had no sub goalkeeper, at least officially designated on their team sheet. Maybe 1 or 2 of the young girls. Maybe Celebrini actually might be a goalkeeper now that I think about it. Oh no, she's not. Yeah, but there's a lot of teams now with very small squads. Athlone only 4 subs on the bench. Only one really that we would recognize by name, and that's their goalkeeper, Megan. Maria Matawa, she obviously not opted out, but she was dropped this week for the original first choice, Megan Plashko, who came back from injury. So interesting who holds on to that. Both keepers very impressive. Something you really want for the champions going into a Champions League campaign in a couple of months' time, to have 2 really solid goalkeepers. But then the depth of their squad this year has been super impressive as well. We'll get to Treaty in a minute, but coming back to Group A and wrapping that up, Bohs and Shells, is it a point drop for Shells, or does it give Bohemians that opportunity where now a draw should be enough, given you would expect Sligo not to beat Shelburne at the weekend, but a draw could be enough to see Bohemians progress to the quarterfinal? They'd be quite happy with that, I think.
Yeah, to answer your first question, the answer is probably yes. It probably is point drop from a Shells viewpoint, but from the type of the competition, I think the most important thing for Owen Wearing is if you look at that Shelburne side that started that game against Bohs, the amount of changes that he made in it, he gave players who probably hadn't got a lot of game time and opportunity. Like you look at there, Gabby Del Pico started, Noelle Murray hasn't started in a couple of games. Even the likes of young Woolmer starting, Lucy O'Rourke, Jess Gargan hasn't started in a few. I think he's got important minutes into players. I would say he'd be happy enough with the draw, despite you always want to win them games. From the Bows viewpoint, yeah, listen, Bows will have to be very happy with that point. You looked at when they played Sligo on the opening day, you probably thought a draw against Sligo, really bad results. It could mess things up. And it's the same thing when we'll talk about Treaty in the sense of the draw with Waterford, how we thought that would really put them on the back foot. But to get the draw against Shells, like you have the destinies in their own hands. Like realistically, as you say, a point should probably be good enough against Linfield in the last day. But are they capable of getting all 3 points? Absolutely. But then again, I wouldn't necessarily write Linfield off in that game. Just in terms of the Sligo game, Breifne, I've looked at it about 7 or 8 times. The goal for Sligo Rovers isn't an own goal. It looks to me that it comes off Hutton last, and
I don't think
you don't want to take it away. You don't want to take it away from the player, but it looked as though it was on target, but
I don't think you can take it away in that sort of circumstances. Deflections or coming off a player, I think it's very definitely a forwards goal in that instance. I think it was a Cara King maybe got that goal. No, Rachel Burke.
Yeah.
I think Burke, according to IRFU Connect, she
got
that.
Burke.
Yeah, I think that's I think you give it to her. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's fair to take it off her in that instance. But
I have to ask this question because you texted me on Saturday evening, and I actually never went back and looked at the last minute of LOI TV. Have you gone back and checked the last minute of LOI TV from this game yet?
I haven't.
The three yellow cards just to see what.
At the same time for the same team is very, very strange. I'll have to go back and take a look at it. I forgot to look back at it actually, but yeah, Leah Kelly, Emma Hansbury, and Myrne Devaney, all 3 leaders of that team effectively, all booked. There must have been some altercation. You're flicking back through it now as we speak, aren't you?
No, I'm not. But I'd love to flick back through it and actually have a look. Yeah. I might
interesting time to see if something did come up on that, but worth checking out for anyone who has an LOI TV subscription just to see what went on in that particular case. It does leave us with a fairly distinct kind of setup to the group table. I'm just going to flash up the
just while you do that. It was a nice free kick from Alexandra Clarke though.
Yes,
the low free kick into the corner and hit the corner, and whatever way it bounced up, hit the top of the bar as well on the way. Yeah. It was a nice free kick.
Absolute precision into the bottom corner. Yeah, get Bonnie McKernan no chance. And then the equaliser, very scrappy, forced across the line, just about forced across the line. But I don't think Sligo care how it goes in. They'll take that result as a very
that's a good bounce back for Sligo considering
they've been on a really, really fine run of form. Bar that heavy defeat to Athlone, was it last week? They've not lost. They've lost 1 game and 5, and for a team who came out looking like they were going to get blown away all year, it's a very solid rise and improvement from the first 5 or 6 games of the season. So fair play to Steve Feeney and the girls.
I'm going to throw my neck on the line here, right? If they lose the Shells, I don't think they lose the Shells with 2 or 3 goals. I think they will lose the Shells. It's going to be a close game if they don't get something out of that Shelbourne game in 2 weeks.
No, they've tightened up everything, and they're much harder to beat now than they were in the first couple of rounds of the season. And they look to have a bit more fight and a bit more oomph. And I don't know whether that's coming from the management or whether it's coming from the players themselves. But there's a lot of girls in there with a lot of experience, not just in soccer, but across Gaelic games and with Sligo and Leitrim and Mayo and a few other places beyond. And of course, you've got Emma Hansbury in there, and she might not have the legs that she had as a 22-year-old anymore, but she's definitely got that brain, and she has the respect of every single player in that dressing room. And when she speaks, they listen. And I think when you've got 3 or 4 players of that quality, alongside a couple of the youngsters who've grown up through that set up in the club, and they bleed the bitter red, the likes of Sarah Kiernan and Kate Nugent and these girls, and I think they'll quite happily fight to the end of the season. And I don't expect to see them in the bottom position at the end of the year, and I think they'll be reasonably happy with that. I think
I was having a chat with somebody recently, right, about the cup.
Okay.
And they were talking about sort of who the non-league teams want to draw. And I just turned around and said, you have to remember, at the stage where Sligo were struggling last year, they battled Terranure 6-0, who won the Intermediate Cup. Like, Sligo could get the FAI Cup draw is Wednesday? Is it Wednesday next week? So they could get a nice draw, a potential nice draw in the FAI Cup, and even going, I wouldn't be surprised to go on a cup run. But you think about it, like the 4-0 defeat against Cork early in the season, them 2 teams play tomorrow not a hope it'd be that sort of result again.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting times ahead for Sligo, but it's going well for them in recent weeks. They'll be quite happy with that. Let me go back and just pull up the league table. As we said, this is the league table as it stands in that Group A. Shells top the table with 4 points from Bohemians and Sligo with identical records on 2 points, and Linfield on 1. Now, bear in mind that the permutations for this group, just so people know what's happening. If Shells win, they're top the group. No one can touch them. If Sligo draw, or if they lose, they're out. They cannot. There's no path for them into these quarterfinals if they lose that game. A draw or a win for Sligo throws up a whole lot of permutations. A win for Sligo will see them guaranteed into the final 8. A draw would see Shells guaranteed into the final 8. Linfield would be guaranteed to be out if they don't win as well. So many different permutations as to how that might pan out. But as it stands at the moment, I think given that Linfield play Bows at home, I fancy Bows to get a draw in that game, and I fancy Shells to beat Sligo narrowly. So I think it's going to be Shells.
They're both kickoff time, aren't they?
I think all the games are 3 o'clock on the 7th of August. So a bit of time to go to those games.
Never mind 7th of August, 7th of June. They're the week after the international.
They're in our system wrong then, apologies. Interesting to see how that's going to pan out over the next couple of weeks. Let's move on to Group B and take a look at some of the games that were played in that competition. Lisburn, probably the surprise packet of the weekend. The 2-1 win against DLR. Looked every bit good value for that. 2 really good, solid team goals. Well worked, well finished. Didn't really give DLR much of a chance of actually getting into this game at all. And Keelan Dodd, I suppose, a bit lucky with the rebound from the penalty. Good save from Kate Smith. Keeps the ball out, but Dodd just touches it past her for the consolation. DLR just couldn't get back in the game. It's going from bad to worse for DLR, isn't it?
So first thing I took away from it, it's not even on the pitch. It's sort of off the pitch. The pitch looks a lot better this week. Considering we're constantly on pitch track to see what way Waves were. It's another poor result for them, unfortunately. Like when you look at the first goal and you look at the fact that for both goals they gave the ball away. Like the first one they give it away deep inside their own half, and it's just a couple of quick passes and it's in the net. They were sort of caught out. They were caught open for it, and then same thing again for the second goal. For me, they have to defend better. Like the one thing that I will say from a Waves viewpoint is it could be a completely different game if Neiman and Gasse puts that chance away from 6 yards out where she hits a so tame straight at the keeper, and then like even looking at the penalty, the Lisburn defender didn't even need to make the challenge there on Michelle Doonan. Doonan was going away from goal and she didn't need to make that challenge. And the interesting thing, I would have thought Doonan would have taken the penalty, but as I say, Dodd, I don't think it was a great penalty. It was a good height for the keeper to get a hand to it, and then she was just the quickest to follow up and nearly bundled it into the net. I think it's a bit of a story of the way Waves this season is going. It's been a real struggle. You sort of thought this game might be the opportunity to get that first win of the season, but it didn't really look like it was going to come for me. And it's frustrating to watch because there is some really good players in Waves, and like they just weren't good enough on the day. And that's the honest part of it. And as much as we want to see Waves getting that first win of the season, the performance just wasn't there for them to warrant it.
Let's talk about the other game in that season, the game in that group, Shamrock Rovers in action against Wexford. Wasn't really sure what to expect from this game because both teams have been in good enough form in the league, and then all of a sudden Shamrock Rovers just kind of took over. Great finish, I felt, for the first goal. Misappropriated to Joy Ralph for a moment, but it was Claire O'Reilly with a great finish. She stretched out that right foot and just managed to stroke it home from that great cross from the left-hand side. And then Maria Reynolds with a good one from a corner later on, was it? Header from
it was a corner, header from a corner. Yeah, I'm sorry, on that, you can't give Maria Reynolds half a yard of space that close out. She was brilliant for Shamrock Rovers, absolutely brilliant for them. Interesting thing on this game, I'd heard a bit of a murmur that there was a potential that Russia Littlejohn wasn't going to play, that she was potentially going to be at the Champions League final. but in them sort of horrible conditions, you know, help their team along. I think it's an important win for Shamrock Rovers in the sense of Collie O'Neill probably does need to win something this year. The All Ireland Cup might be that opportunity, or the FAI Cup, because they're not going to get back into the league. And it was a really good result. Just on the Wexford goal, that's probably the only downside if you're looking from a Shamrock Rovers fan point of view, in the sense of they probably should have kept a clean sheet. There was multiple opportunities to cut that out. You see, even before Millie Daly cuts inside, she had Aoife Brophy and Maria Reynolds at her. Reynolds sort of has half a stab at it, and then when Summer Lawless comes out and Aoife Brophy's there, it's just sort of, how would you say, unlucky the way it goes into the back of the net, because it's just a ricochet.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, Summer Lawless comes off the line towards the sideline, not even straight out, but out to the right hand side as she's playing, and just tries to clear the ball, and it just ricochets off the feet of Millie Daly, who had put in a really good effort to get that ball down that line. Like, really good industry from her. Quite impressed with that run. I wouldn't say it deserved a goal, but it definitely warranted something positive. And I suppose
she's been very good for Wexford. Anytime I've seen her, she's been quite decent for them. Still eligible underage. Like, that Wexford side, they've had the bad result against Shells. Now they're the loss against Shamrock Rovers, but I don't want to sound disrespectful when I say this, but the loss against Shamrock Rovers will more than likely, the way current form is going, not necessarily mean an awful lot, because you would expect them to beat the Waves, and you would expect Shamrock Rovers to beat Lisburn Rangers on the last day, and you'd see Shamrock Rovers top the group and Wexford finishing second. But for me, I think Rovers are value for the win. Rovers, it was a good performance from them. Horrible conditions. We've seen the same sort of conditions when we talk about Piedmont as well. Horrible conditions, but good win for Rovers. As you can see there, like, 8 goals scored, only 1 conceded in the competition. Like, they'd have to be really happy.
Yeah, no, it's a very solid table at the moment, and you can't see as you said, the actual performances changing that on the final day based on what we would expect. But then you never quite know what's going to happen.
Like, what are we looking at? You're talking, in order for Waves to potentially overtake Wexford, they need to, 11 goals and 11 goals in the difference. They're talking having to win 6-0
6-0 win, yeah. And even then, it's a 6-0 win and hope that Lisburn don't get beat as well. So it's very unlikely that DLR Waves will overcome that. However, a 1-0 win or even a draw for Lisburn Rangers could be enough if DLR were to beat Wexford. So there is plenty to play for. No one's out of it, but it's very unlikely to see DLR coming through that group, I think, as it progresses in the coming weeks. Group C, Piedmont and Galway United did battle, both teams with a winning record coming into the weekend. We've seen this clash over the years throw up so many absolute crackers. This probably not one of them.
No, I'd agree with you. The conditions were horrific as well. The one note I did take out of the game, that was Syvedale's first league or cup goal since September 2023. Considering she hasn't played an awful lot of football, I think for Piedmont need to get her back running, get her back motoring. Ellen Dolan also played 90 as well. Piedmont starting to get a couple of bodies back, which is very well needed. I think Doyle took her headed goal very well. It was a nice ball from Carla McManus, and Doyle just sort of glanced it into the far corner. But for me, the one thing I want to call out is Abby Costello's
industry
tenacity.
Yeah,
tenacity. Not like I thought Lauren O'Callaghan was quite laboured in terms of when Costello initially gets the ball after dispossessing, and O'Callaghan could have easily cleared it, but she was sort of laboured and sort of looking at it, and then Costello comes behind, earns the corner. Costello's watching the ball go to play. She's thinking, will I, won't I? And then the ball rolls to the other side of the barrier. She goes to the other side of the barrier, gets the ball, puts it on the corner, and takes it quick enough. And it's hard to see. It's been credit to Amanda Smith, but it's hard to see who the ball actually come off. But listen, Galway won't complain. That sort of ends that bit of a slump for them, considering they've lost their last 3 league games, and that's sort of a bit of a bounce back that Phil Trill would have wanted. You text me Saturday evening. You were doing a bit of research on the referee. This was very interesting. The stat that the thing that you told me about Kate O'Brien, the referee, that she had previously booked Niamh Farrelly playing for Peamount against Galway United, and then booked her again playing for Galway against Peamount United. I actually thought that was brilliant.
I googled the referee for some reason, I can't remember why, but I googled the referee just to see what level she was at. I wasn't familiar with her, if I'm honest. And the second or third one was a link to a photo of her booking Niamh Farrelly, and I'm watching the game on LOITV, and she books Niamh Farrelly playing against Peamount United. I just thought it was one of those kind of Freudian things that if you saw it in a movie, you'd kind of go, well, that's really badly scripted. But yeah, no, it was funny. But I thought she didn't have a great game, the referee, but then the conditions, like the most entertaining thing in the game, and I hate to say this, was probably the cameraman having to wipe the lens every 90 seconds to 2 minutes. It was really annoying, but I suppose given the conditions, it's just what's going to happen in an open, exposed.
The worst problem about Greenogue is if it's ever going to rain, it's always going to rain in that direction. It's the worst problem about when you go to a game out there. It's always going to rain in that direction, that sort of slant. It's always one of them that people complain if he doesn't do it. They'll complain if it's done as well.
Oh, it has to be done, but it has to be done. But on the pitch, Galway, I seen a bit of a Galway post game interview where they were sort of talking about they could have potentially nicked it. Like in them conditions, a draw won't be the worst result for either team, I don't think. Yeah, talking about games and quality, the game that probably was the most entertaining game in terms of an actual match, evenly matched teams, Cliftonville and Cork City, 6 goals. Cliftonville looked to be in absolute control in the game, and then Cork just hadn't quite read the script. For me, there was so many efforts, so many goals in this game worth talking about. There was the strike from Fiona Bradley from decent range. It was great. You can argue toss about the goalkeeping or position, and maybe the effort applied to try and stay it out was probably not at the top of what you would expect at this level. I thought the touch from Caitlin McGuinness to set Tegan Lynch up for the first goal, just a complete if a magician did it on stage, you'd call it sleight of hand, but it was just sleight of foot, where the ball's coming diagonally across the box essentially, and Caitlin McGuinness, just a deftest of touches, just turns on the ball, and a ball ends up at the feet of Tegan Lynch. I've no doubt it was 100% planned. Lynch couldn't miss, but the Cork City defense, and I think any defense, were all over the place from that touch, because they'd moved towards the flight of the ball, and then the misdirection just kind of caught everyone unawares. And Lynch, probably with the easiest tap in of her career, mind you, she got another one later on, and much better, much harder.
I'll ask this question to you on that, right? Is will McGuinness get the credit for that touch, considering the way Cork's defense has been lately? Because it's been quite poor in 6s and 7s a lot of times lately.
People don't really get the credit for those kind of moves in these games anyway, because unfortunately and particularly this week, I get why, because maybe the budget isn't there quite for the number of games involved, but to get one single 4-minute video of all the highlights of whatever number of games, we're playing 8 games with what, 2 or 3 goals in every one of them, like it's 4 minutes, you barely see the strike, never mind the build-up. It's very hard
like the one thing I'd said to you even before we went on air is, rather than any of the goals I missed, I rarely watched any of them through that video. I actually went back to LOITV, and actually, because the build-up I think is as important in some of the goals, and likewise it doesn't have the build-up from the DLR Waves goal, from the 2 goals for Lisburn, where you see exactly what happened. It doesn't have what happened, the foul for the penalty. You know, these are key things in these sort of things if you're going to show any sort of highlight. Like, I understand, but as I say, budgets aren't there. But like, this is the problem when maybe if they had a sponsor for the competition, they may have had to put out more. Like, it's also frustrating as well. And thankfully, this video did have the goals from it, but Cliftonville versus Cork City was the only game that wasn't streamed on LOI TV this weekend, and that's another thing. It's like it's been the first round. There was the Glentoran and Athlone game wasn't streamed on the Friday evening, and then it's this like belter of a game, 6 goals. You'd love to be watching it. Likewise, Glentoran against Athlone. You'd love to watch that because there's so many talking points, so many debates at the end of it. And they're the things that people sort of get frustrated upon. But like at the end of the day, in terms of when we reflect back on this game, Cliftonville will not want to see the ending again. Yeah, because of the fact that they conceded 2 goals. Yes, Fianna Bradley, it was a lovely strike. I know LOITV still has the FAI Connect still has the last goal down as Heidi Mackin, but it was actually Ciara McNamara. And the question I would say to you is, when does Ciara McNamara score goals? She never scores goals. And Ciara Mac has been someone who's been with Cork for year in, year out, and popping up with that crucial equaliser. Like, who knows, that equaliser could be key.
Well, we have been called out by someone we've just name checked, by the way, on social media. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm going to stick it up on the screen here, and it's from Chris Clarke, who was the camera operator at the Peamount game at the weekend, and he's delighted that his cloth got a mention as the highlight of the game on Saturday. So thank you very much.
Do you know what? Right, the unsung heroes of the league will never go amiss. These small little details. Fair play to you, Chris. Whatever rag he used, it was a good rag.
Yeah, no, it did the job temporarily until the rain took over. But no, like, and you talk about the people like Chris. That's the first time I've ever heard Chris's name. So thanks for all your work that you do, Chris. I'm not sure if that's the normal Peamount camera operator or if he was also on loan from Shamrock Rovers, like the commentary team. Yeah. Anyway, where was the commentator on loan from? It wasn't Max and Avril this week.
No, Dave Hanley is Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But anyway, it was great. Like the people the unsung heroes, as you call them, and rightly so, for being able to. Like, I watched all 8 games or 7 games at the weekend, or patches of each of them at least, from the comfort of my own house in rural Ireland. Do you know what I mean? And to be able to do that, like, I'm also a subscriber to another platform from another national sporting organization around the same price point, and I went to watch a game on Saturday. They didn't have a single game on with a full list of games, and it's very frustrating. And then the value we get out of LOI TV because of people like Chris, who some volunteers, some sponsored people, and also some kind of just on very, very, very small budgets, if any budgets at all. It's phenomenal to give the exposure to the girls and let them be able to watch games back, supporters to follow when you can't get to games and stuff. It's absolutely great. So thanks for getting in touch, Chris.
I just hope Peamount gave him a cup of tea at least at halftime.
Well, you need more than a cup of tea. You want to be very warm, and a flask for the second half. Let's look at the group table after those games in Group C of the competition, and they are Peamount on top from Galway, 2 points ahead of, or 2 goals ahead of Galway on goal difference, while Cliftonville and Cork City, they will have to hope for results elsewhere to get them into the final stages of this. Just to put it accurately and how that's going to work, Galway United host Cork City, and Cliftonville host Peamount United. So Galway, a result for Galway would see them through. Same for Peamount. Cliftonville would need a 2-goal win, would put them through on goals scored.
Cork, that Cliftonville game is gonna be a belter.
Yeah, but it's a 2-goal swing that they require. Cork the same. Hard to see Cork on form getting a 2-goal victory against Galway United, although stranger things have happened. Cliftonville Peamount, I think that's probably going to be the game of round 3, let's be honest, so far, because as we go to Group D, we know
just even before you do it, like, for me now, based off of what I said last week, and I stand by what I said last week in the sense that I don't think, apart from against each other, that Shells and Athlone will drop points. I will see Galway going full strength in this game, looking to defend this competition and not worrying about the league games that's coming up. I think Galway will go full strength in that game, and that's what will make it probably more difficult for Cork.
given the league form, you'd have to agree with that. On to Group D, and Glentoran, the first of the teams, and for me, the team of the weekend. I was really impressed with them. Yes, they're playing Waterford, who are new kings, new queens on the block. What do you want to call them? New kids on the block? I don't know. I'm talking Ramesh now, but Glentoran, they beat Athlone. Athlone will tell you they were very disappointed with how that game went, how it was officiated, how the whole kind of thing went. 2 red cards for them later on in that game as well. Didn't help matters, and probably didn't help matters this week. They're out of the competition, league champions, and out of the competition, which is mad. But Glentoran, we're going to Waterford, and Waterford need a big result to overturn that. Athlone, if Athlone have to beat Treaty, and then Waterford have to win by 3 extra goals on top of that. Can I see all that happening? Very unlikely, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Glentoran have been the most impressive side in the competition so far for me.
Yeah, and what they call her up there, Wilson up top as well. We spoke about her after the first round of games. Done it again. Two more goals. The third goal, which is her second goal, was a lovely curling finish. I think the goal of the game for me, though, was Aaron O'Brien's strike for Waterford. It was a superb strike. Yes, it's only a consolation goal at that stage, 4-0 down. But I think some of the goals when Waterford look back, the first one, I think it probably might have been going in, even if it doesn't take the deflection. The fourth goal, a bit of head tennis in the box for a moment, and then it's headed in. Like it's a learning curve for Waterford, and I'm like they're going to take these sort of results on an odd basis here and there, and I think Gary Hunt just needs to keep the players motivated, keep them going. Yeah, you can't say it's yes, it's a disappointing result, but it's probably not surprising. And with Glentoran qualifying for the last game, it'll be interesting to see what sort of side they play against Treaty on the last day. Interesting in terms of the Treaty goal. Okay, the biggest thing I found interesting about this is how many times this season have Athlone scored the exact type of goal where it's been knocked about in the box and it's just been poked home from close range in that exact goal in Athlone this season. I think it's 3 or 4 that they've done this season. McNally's got a couple of them. Like this game, both sides made changes. Obviously, Kelly Brady and Maddie Gibson were suspended. No Isabella Ficini for Treaty, but both sides still had really, really strong sides, and that out to play. And like you got to give Treaty a bit of credit here for the fact that they got the win. Like that Athlone side that they did have out, you'd probably say is strong enough to be a lot of League of Ireland sides on a normal League of Ireland day. So I think Athlone, you got to give them a lot of credit for Treaty. You got to give them a lot of credit for the win.
No, I'd agree with that. In terms of the league table at that division, Waterford, of course, beaten by Glentoran, Treaty beaten Athlone. Probably the surprise of the weekend, I think it's fair to say. But let's look at the league table after that.
Just while you're pulling that up, though, the one good side from an Athlone viewpoint is more minutes for Roisin Malloy and Megan Plashko coming back, having not played since the 29th of March.
Absolutely. Now we've got the actual action from the weekend taken care of. I have a couple of questions for you, Aaron, and I warned you I had a couple of little brain teasers for you. And the first one is, with 3 years into the Avenir Sports Cup, what player has played in every year but for a different team? And there are 2 answers to this.
Different team?
Yeah, 3 different teams in 3 different seasons.
That's an interesting one.
I have 2 answers. There may be more. I don't think there are more, but
it's not Rebecca Cook because she's only played for Bows and she's only played for Shells. Tegan Lynch has only played for 2. Waterford and Anya Gorman wouldn't have played for Peamount, which said she'd only be 2. Emily Corbett won it.
That's a good shout. I'm going to have to double check that one. But I don't believe she played for Wexford last year in the competition. I'm going to double check it. She's not on my list, but I'm going to double check it.
This is a great. You've really You've really thrown a spanner in the works.
I know, that was the whole point.
No. Lauren Walsh. Not Lauren Walsh, no. Jesus. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Lauren Kelly would be a name that would spring to mind.
Well, let me just. Emily Corbett played for Wexford Youths, Wexford FC, and Shamrock Rovers in the 3 consecutive years. I'm not going to give you that, though.
No, I wouldn't have taken that.
No. Lauren Kelly. No,
yeah.
I'll give you, until I find out about Lauren Kelly, I'm going to give you the chance to.
Oh. You have me.
Can I give you a clue? You've said one of the names already.
I've said one of the names already.
The information is wrong. Yeah. This is great TV. This is absolutely great show. But
you've got
said a name. You've said a name.
Who have we said?
Lauren Kelly played 2 years for Shamrock Rovers, 23-24, both for Shamrock Rovers. So no, she does not qualify.
Go on, tell me. You've got me stumped.
They're both currently with northern-based teams. But
you're not saying Tegan Lynch,
but both have played both sides of the border.
It's not one of the Lockeries.
Nope, just with Sligo Rovers and with she played 2 years with Sligo Rovers and then
Tegan Lynch didn't.
Tegan Lynch did. Tegan Lynch played with 2 different teams. She played
Glentoran.
Science Swifts in 2023, Wexford in 24, and Cliftonville this year in 2025.
That was a good guess.
Yeah. Now, the other one you probably won't get. She wouldn't necessarily been on our radar much. She's more of a northern-based player. She played a handful of games for Sligo Rovers last year, including 1 in the Avenir Sports All-Ireland Cup, 3 with Scion Swifts the year before, and twice with Linfield this year, scoring 1 goal for Scion 2 years ago. Any idea who it might be? I think, I could be correct on this, but I think she's a former Irish underage international. Republic of Ireland international. Zoe McGlynn?
No, Zoe McGlynn, yes.
Yeah. So,
Zoe McGlynn.
Yeah, so they're the 2 answers. So 0 out of 0 for that.
I have to give me. I said 1, but
you did. You had Tegan Lynch. I'll give you half point for Tegan Lynch on that one. I have a couple of other little posers for you. First of all, who is the highest percentage win rate in the Avenir Cup for all time? Who has won the most percentage of their own games in the competition? Bear in mind, Galway are the double champions.
It's not Galway because Galway have drawn a lot of games.
Galway are 3rd in the table on 62%, 8 wins.
Athlone could be 2nd.
You think Athlone could be 2nd? Athlone are 7th. Athlone have only won 33% of the games in this competition. They've lost both this year. They've lost 2 out of their games this year.
Shells are right up there because the first year Shells.
4. Shells have won 50%.
It's not Peamount.
Peamount are 10th, 33% with Athlone.
Cork City will be about 6th, I think.
Cork are 2 points further back. They're in 12th.
You got to say Cliftonville.
I think not Cliftonville, not in the top 8 that I have here.
Interesting. They made a final. Wow.
Cliftonville are 9th, actually, isn't it?
Wexford can't be Wexford. Wexford haven't won enough games. Shamrock Rovers will be thereabouts.
Shamrock Rovers are 2nd, 64%, 7 wins in 11 games. Wexford are there twice, 50% as Wexford Youths and 43% as Wexford FC. But the first one, it's a bit of a tricky one. They're not in the competition anymore. They're a Northern Irish team. They won 2 games out of 3 in their first season and then went out of football.
It's not Scion Swifts.
Scion Swifts, 67% have the highest record. And then, seeing as we've finished the teams, Glentoran, the only other one you didn't mention. And funny enough, Lisburn Rangers, with their win at DLR, first win in 2 games, gives them 50%. They're in that.
Right, I have a great question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously, Peamount United have played in the Champions League a couple of times.
Yes.
Which player scored? So, Peamount United played 1 of their campaigns in Slovenia.
Okay, yeah.
And they won a game 7-0.
Against Pura?
Yeah. Kikra. ZNK Kikra, KRKA.
Okay.
Which player? Who scored a hat trick that day?
Oh God. For Peamount
And I'll give you a
United.
clue. It wasn't Sarah Lawler. It wasn't
Oh, you're
Stephanie
going
Roach,
that
or
far.
it wasn't Anya O'Gorman.
Oh God. Was it Louise Quinn?
Got it.
Yeah.
Louise Quinn got a hat trick because we were only talking about Louise Quinn earlier today. Obviously, with Louise being in the Ireland squad for the upcoming games. Yeah, I was just only looking at that earlier. Scored a hat trick in the Champions League game.
Who's the top scorer in the Avenir Sports Cup of all time?
So it's Anya O'Gorman.
8 goals, 8 games. Yeah.
Lamalai.
5 goals, 7 games. She's 5th, joint 4th. If you want to be exact about it.
Kate Mooney wouldn't have played the first set of Avenir because Pimo were poor the first year. Weren't great the first year. Jenna Slattery's up there.
Jenna Slattery has, where did I see her name a minute ago? She's definitely on the list. She's 3 goals. How many players with more than 3 goals can you mention without getting one wrong? So you've got Anya. I'll give you Anya and Malloy's. That's 2.
Noelle Murray.
Noelle Murray does not have 3 goals in the competition.
No way.
She has 2 in 6 games.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's the end of that for you.
I thought that was a banker.
A few I thought you might get. Rihanna Jarrett has 6, Gemma Quinn with 5, Casey Howe with 5, Kate Thompson with 5, Keola Bergen 4, Ciara Rossiter 4, Emily Wilson 4. Who?
Maddie Gibson.
Maddie Gibson has 0, has never scored in the Avenir Sports Cup. So some strange things have happened. Anyway,
Emily Wilson scored 3 this year, hasn't she?
Yeah, Emily Wilson's got 5, I think, in total so far. 4 in 7 games. Cara Hamilton 3 in 2 games. She's currently obviously with Lewes, I think, in the championship in the UK. A few other players in there as well. Fiona Bradley with her 3rd at the weekend. She has gone up to 3 goals. Mackenzie Anthony with her 2nd. She might. And so Alexandra Clarke, they scored at the weekend too. So they all move up to 2 goals in the competition. So we might see Kate Mooney, another one, but 2. A few other players still in the competition. Emily Corbett in there as well. So Tegan Lynch with her too. Anyway, move on. Let's get on from the boring stuff of who scored what back in the day. The competition, of course, this weekend, nothing for either side of the border in terms of games this week. We look at the international scene. You're off to Turkey on Wednesday, so you're going to be following the girls in green. It's a bit of a daunting task over the next couple of weeks to maybe 10 days for Ireland to try and get their tier 2 or their whatever they call it now,
League A status.
Yeah, it's going to be a big ask, but it's something that we absolutely need to do, right?
So I'm not 100% convinced we're going to get it, and the reason why I say that is because 2 wins isn't good enough. So it has to be, in order for Ireland to top the group, it's going to have to be 2 wins. If we want goal difference, we need to beat Slovenia 4-0. If we want to win, top the group outright, we're going to need to beat Turkey, whatever score, and then beat Slovenia 5-0. It's not going to be easy. That night in Koper, sort of, when I left, you knew it was on the back foot. But the thing about it is, and Carlos even spoke about this, is they've got a second opportunity in the sense of if they don't top the group, that they will play against the 3rd place team in one of the League A groups that are currently ongoing at the minute. So they'll play them over home and away in October. So there is an opportunity for Ireland to sort of have that second opportunity. Like, you just go back to that disaster in Koper and sort of think, if we could have kept it at 1-0, even 2-0, it might be a lot easier.
But to put that in context, third place in Group A for the moment is one of Austria and Scotland, probably Iceland or Switzerland, maybe even Norway, Belgium, Portugal, Denmark, or maybe Italy. So none of those teams would be exactly cakewalks. Like, we're not expecting we wouldn't be favorites to beat any of those games. So a playoff against a 3rd team in Group A does not help.
No, it's not easy as well, and it's not easy. And the one thing when you sort of look at it in the sense of them teams, yes, we've beaten Scotland previously if they were to finish 3rd, but it's no guarantee that Scotland say finish 3rd. You're then talking, but then the other side of it is as well, Breifne. If you look at, say, like league then in Group B, obviously the French are home and host in first place. But like it could be any one of Norway, Iceland, or Switzerland. Like that in itself is a daunting task. Like it's still not even ruled out the fact that England could finish third in that group with if they were to lose to Portugal and Spain. Like it's no matter who you get, it's gonna be a really, really difficult task, and it just comes back. Everything just stems back to that bleak performance in Slovenia, where Ireland were just so poor, second to everything, and they're paying the consequences for it. Like it's difficult to say. Yes, we've lost some great leaders in the team over the last, say, year or so, and Louise Quinn is going to retire this summer. But the other side of it is there's a lot of expectation on this Irish team now because of what they've done in qualifying for the Euros and the way they walked League B the last time. So, like for me, the most important thing is it's getting them 6 points in them 2 games. I honestly don't expect Greece to get any sort of result against Slovenia. Get the result against Turkey, and then start talking about goal difference, what's needed. I think realistically, if Ireland are to get the result they need, they are going to have the crowd on their side the way they had in Porky the last time when they played France. But it's not going to be an easy task. It's going to be a really, really difficult task to turn over that goal deficit, and it's hard to see it being done at the minute.
Yeah, big challenge ahead of the Irish girls. You had a chance to hear a little bit from Erin King, the new girl in the squad. She's American, but playing her football in the A-League in Australia. Your thoughts on her inclusion? Can she make a difference up top for Ireland?
It was somebody who was sort of a bit on the, how to say, off the radar, in the sense of it wasn't somebody you would have thought of. Had played in Portugal previously before making the move to the A-League. All the talk is she's either going to end up in the WSL or back in the NWSL next after the summer. So she's quick. She's a goal scorer. Will she get an opportunity? Is the question. Will Carla Ward want to throw someone like that into a game? For me, you don't bring a player in if you're gonna bring a player like that in. You nearly sort of have to. Could she potentially, with her pace, have that sort of Julianne Russell effect? Like, you have to remember, Ireland are missing both Leanne Kiernan and Heather Payne, so that's pace that they're missing out wide. Is it an opportunity as well for someone like Abby Larkin to potentially start one of these games? The other side of it, and this is something that we probably haven't talked about, is Ireland have quite a lot of players who are playing in the Championship in England. Their season would have finished quite a couple of weeks ago. So how them players have maintained themselves will be interesting to see, because it's gonna be difficult. The players in the top league, their league would have not long finished a week, 2 weeks ago, so they'll be fine. Like, it's definitely an opportunity of two. It's definitely 2 games for an opportunity for someone to stand up and take and stake their claim. Healy looks like she has a lot of ability. I think Carla Ward might give her an opportunity in one of the games, and it'll be interesting to see what she can do. But talked as if she sort of, it's been something that she's looked at for a while. Family are from, the mother side are from Monaghan, but the father side are generational Irish as well. So it's one of them that's like, can she hit the ground running? Like, it's a difficult squad to maintain. Like, we've seen players like Mel Phillips coming in, and sort of it didn't necessarily work out when they were brought in like this. Healy will have to hit the ground running, especially if she wants to maintain that place. But if she doesn't get an opportunity this camp, I wouldn't be shocked if she plays if she gets an opportunity in one of them 2 games against America later in June.
Yeah, interesting time to bring her in. I suppose I'd have reservations about the quality of the A-League. Like, we look at a player who came in essentially from that level recently, Deborah Della Harp. I personally quite liked how she played. I think she got 1 appearance, maybe 2 against
45
Singapore.
minutes.
Against Singapore.
She got 45 minutes
against China.
I think it was China in Marbella. Now, I heard a little bit about this situation. Like, she'd literally flown in. I think she landed that morning or the night before and was thrown straight into it. It wasn't really ideal. I know she did move to Europe to try and sort of get a bit of exposure in that sort of way. I'm not sure how much that's really worked out for her.
She didn't get much game time. She was in Denmark for a while. I can't remember which club, but she was in Denmark for a while. She had won the A League the year before, moving to Europe, and she's gone back and played 23 games for Brisbane Roar this year. I don't know where they finished up in that league table.
Interesting. She was with Sydney, if I'm not mistaken, beforehand.
Yeah.
The other side of it, from the Ireland viewpoint, is the question mark remains over the captain. Do you play Katie McCabe on Friday? Like, she's not listening.
She might be celebrating all week.
Well, she's due to join up with the squad in the next 24 hours, but she's definitely enjoyed herself since Saturday, since winning the Champions League. And listen, she's every right, and she deserves that opportunity to enjoy herself. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if maybe Katie doesn't start that game on Friday and sort of comes off the bench in the first game, because I probably would do the same thing in the sense of winning the Champions League, all that sort of.
Yeah,
what's
the point in playing if you can't enjoy the highlights? And I suppose we better send our congratulations to Katie and her Arsenal teammates for that success. It's just one of numerous successes for Irish international players around the leagues around Europe and around everywhere over the last couple of months, but particularly in the last few weeks. Ciara Grant, of course, member of that Hibernians team, who ended the Glasgow dominance in the Scottish Professional Women's League up there, but so many Irish players up there and across the championship and in the.
Who was the Irish player to win the A League this year?
Oh God, no idea.
You're gonna be more than listen from your province.
No. My province is a big province, covers a lot of area. I have no idea what kind of girl.
Played women's Premier Division football in the last couple of years.
I genuinely have no idea. I haven't been tracking anyone who's
AFL star.
Oh, from Mayo.
Yeah.
Oh, Sarah Rowe. I didn't realize she'd actually.
Sarah Rowe gone back. She'd gone playing with Melbourne during the off season and won the A League.
Fair play. I wasn't aware of Sarah at all on that one, so apologies to Sarah Rowe and to everybody over in Ballina.
I got you.
You got me back. I deserved it. Listen, to everyone who's had success from across the world, across the globe, our heartiest congratulations to everybody. It's great to see Irish girls succeeding in this game and really creating a pathway to a professional outlet for all of these players who travel to play the game at a professional level, because it's just not available here at the moment. But hopefully that will change in time. Aaron, what's your predictions for the two internationals? Can we finish top?
We'll beat Turkey 3-0. We'll beat Turkey 2-0, and we'll beat Slovenia, but I'm not sure we'll get the goal difference that's required.
That would be a bit of a tragedy, but we'll see how it goes. Next week, of course, we play Slovenia, but this week, what night are we even playing Turkey? I don't know.
Friday evening, 6 o'clock Irish time.
And then next week,
Slovenia is Tuesday at 6 o'clock as well, Irish time.
In Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So enjoy it. Listen, Aaron, as ever, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. We will be talking next week about the international game and previewing those third round clashes in the, I was about to say sponsor name, not quite sure if that's true, the All-Ireland Cup the following weekend. Plenty of 7 spots still up for grabs in that final 8. Who's going to get their hands on them? We'll find out in just over 10 days' time. Thanks for joining us, and obviously also to Chris for getting in touch and outing himself as the camera cleaner / operator / guru at Peamount United. We appreciate everything that happens behind the scenes and everyone who does that within the league. We'll be back next week chatting all things women's football across the League of Ireland Women's Premier Division and the women's national team over the course of the next 7 days. Talk to you then.